Is there any hope for Jaylen Ramsay to be back as a member of the Miami Dolphins in 2025? What are the expectations for Jonnu Smith coming off his lone Pro Bowl season, the only Pro Bowler on the 2025 team? And what was the Dolphins defensive staff's reaction to having most of the draft picks in 2025 used on defensive players? We will address that in this week's episode of Dolphins in Depth. I am your host, Miami Herald columnist Omar Kelly. Joining me is Isaiah Smalls, who was there for the, I would say gangbang, but I don't know if that's a violatable word, smorgasbord of Dolphins coaches who joined us for interviews. Isaiah, what was your top takeaway from talking to all of the Dolphins assistant coaches, which, you know, we have the fortune for doing as they enter the first week of on-field work in OTAs, with where the coaches get to participate?
I mean, for me, I think all eyes are on the cornerback position, right? I think in light of Jaylen Ramsay and the Dolphins mutually agreeing to, find a trade for the future Hall of Famer, and in light of the seemingly lack of high-end investment in the draft at that position, they took Jason Marshall Jr. in the 5th round. And then on top of them not really addressing the position during the first couple waves of free agency, I think for me, the biggest question mark is, at those two outside cornerback positions. Because if you look at the team right now, look at the roster, you have only 2 guys that started more than 3 games last year in Kader Kohu and Storm Duck. A bunch of practice squad guys, and then a bunch of other guys who have appeared in games, right? But the appearances are limited in scope, right? And so to me, that is the position where it's like, okay, like we have guys there that haven't been a full-time starter, right?
Well, so hold on. I have an Artie Burns with 39 starts in his 8 NFL seasons, former first-round pick. I am not promising you that he's going to deliver good play because he spent most of the last couple of seasons as a backup, was a practice squad player with the Seattle Seahawks. But Anthony Weaver did mention him and single him out today as one of the guys who stepped up from a leadership standpoint inside that room. Now, when you've got nothing in the room, it's not hard for a practice squad player to step up and become a leader. But 39 starts is 39 starts.
I hear you. I'm just saying that it's been quite a while since he's been a full-time starter. I was looking at his numbers the other day. I'm pretty sure he hasn't been a full-time starter since his first couple years in the league. And so I say all that to say, me talking with Matt, or I'm trying to remember how I say it. It's not Arroyo, but
Arroyo.
One more time.
Nope, don't trust me.
Yeah. Matt A., the cornerbacks coach of the Dolphins. I was very interested in talking with him. And, what he said, he kind of kept his comments about Ramsey in that situation kind of to himself. But I think
so did the entire team.
Yeah, of course. But, I think the biggest takeaway from my conversation with him is like, look, man, when you have a future Hall of Famer in Ramsey leaving your team, that creates nothing but opportunity, right? And I think it's incumbent upon Matt, Weaver, all these guys to develop these guys and get them ready for the 2025 season. Specifically, you look at a guy like Cam Smith, like this has to be a make or break year for him because, they invested a 2nd round pick in him a couple years ago. First year, just trying to figure it out. Last year was banged up a little bit. It's the hand holding, as Chris Greer said, is done right now. Like you have to go out there, you have to ball. Matt said that Cam Smith does look noticeably bigger, right? So he's been in the lab a little bit. Let's just hope. Yes, I mean, look, there. It's the off season, right? We're just trying to find ways to be hopeful right now. Because
he has not. Listen. I don't listen to no coach about nothing going on in OTA because there ain't nobody lined up opposite them.
I agree.
They're doing nothing. But busy work.
I agree. I'm just talking about physically. He said that he looks physically bigger. Now, whether or not you want to believe that or not, that's on you. But
he was already a decent sized cornerback. Now, was he strong enough?
I'm guessing strength enough. Yeah, that's the area I think that they needed the improvement. I think they were talking about with him specifically is just better on and off the field with obviously knowing the game and being able to apply what you know on the field, and then two in the weight room, which is getting stronger. Right, those are the few areas of development for Cam Smith, and I believe that at least according to Matt, he's there. Coach Matt, he's there.
Knowing Chris Greer's history, your draft picks always get to be in the front of the line. Good luck to Cam Smith.
Sure.
It wouldn't surprise me if anybody in that unit, including Isaiah Johnson, ended up starting, just because nobody has done anything, nobody has proven anything. Unfortunately, you got to say goodbye to Jaylen Ramsay. More than likely, he's going to be traded once that June 1st date hits. Once June arrives, there's going to be no cap penalty for trading Jaylen Ramsay. They're going to create about $8 million in cap space, which is going to bring their full total of cap space to, I believe, about $24 million. Obviously, you could spend on players and improve your roster, and that certainly needs to be done. But talking to the coaches, listening to the coaches today, it basically seemed like this relationship is over. It is a divorce. This is irreconcilable. There will be no coming back. And here's Anthony Weaver kind of explaining his thought process on losing Jaylen Ramsay, who is a future Hall of Fame player.
To be honest, I've been in this league too long that anything I hear at this point, like, I have very little reaction to it, other than COVID. That one I had a little bit of a reaction to. But this game, things change by the day, right? And I have a tremendous amount of respect for Ramsay. He played very good ball for us. But shoot, relationships are hard, right? And both mutually we've chosen to go other ways, and I respect that, and I wish him nothing but the best moving forward.
How do you manage that, of him being a big part of your defense last year, and now having a little bit of a sudden, I don't know how much heads up you had, but a sudden change to having to adjust maybe your scheme a little bit for different players?
Yeah, I'm fine with that, right? That's the league. The one thing I know, whether it's through injury during the season or what's happening here with us with Jaelan, I'm not getting any sympathy cards from anybody, right? It's my job and our job collectively as a staff to find a way to make these pieces work. And what I know is every player that is here is trying to get better, and they've bought in. So just really pleased with where we're at this point.
Now, let me know, when do you know a player in OTA is not trying to get better?
I've never heard a coach say that XYZ guy is not getting better in OTA. So I've never heard that before.
But listen, I'm appreciative for the access. Unlike the average fan, we get to benefit from not only watching OTAs, which we have not watched yet. We have not seen on-field work. We've only seen rookie camp, but also talk to these coaches and players. So I'm very fortunate to do that, to be able to ask the questions. Asked a number of questions about a number of players that I was quite interested in. Obviously, they gave them to us in a lot of waves, so we couldn't be everywhere. You talk to people differently than I talk to people. One individual that I talked to was John Embry, who's one of my favorite individuals to talk to. He is the assistant head coach of the Miami Dolphins, and probably, arguably, might be maybe Darrell Bevell with the quarterbacks. But John Embry's resume and body of work is quite impressive, quite impeccable. 2 Hall of Famers on it. But he's had us in his position group. He's coached 5 Pro Bowlers now. But when I asked him about Jonnu Smith, his response was, man, a lot of work needs to be done, a lot of improvement. Here's what John Embry had to say about his Pro Bowl tight end.
Something that you judge by numbers, for instance, like when I had George and he set the NFL record for yards in a season. He hasn't, I think closest he's come to that is probably 200 yards. So that doesn't necessarily mean he hasn't had as good of years. I think with Jonnu, really for him, the next step is just being more consistent, or someone we can rely on a little more in the run game. And then just being better with the ball when he has it. As good as he was last year, he had left about 185 yards out on the field. So if we can just get every yard that we have available to us, that's what I'm going to be looking at.
What contributed to a slow start last year? Was it just familiarity with the
yeah,
offense?
Just learning the system, getting comfortable with it. It's like I tell my guys all the time, I'm going to put you out there, but I'm never going to let you go out there and drown, so to speak. So this offense is very voluminous. There's a lot of stuff that we're asked to do in our room. Only the quarterbacks do more than we do. So it's a little bit of a process to kind of get the grasp of everything and all that. And I think about week 3, I think after the Seattle game, I think things kind of started clicking for him.
With Julian, obviously we know you're a big fan because of the strength, but how do we clean up some of the issues that he had last year that kind of held the offense back?
He led the league for tight ends and penalties. He had 9. But I think within the last 6 or 7 games, he played fairly clean. A couple of those penalties was him trying to make stuff right formationally. Guys weren't lined up right, and so he's trying to move back to make it right. So that I can live with. But the holding and all that was just more of him just being over-aggressive. And so we've worked on some things here, and it's nothing that I'm overly concerned about. And if it is, we'll put someone else in there.
With Julian and all the motion you guys do in that position, kind of changing landmarks for his run blocking assignments, how long does it take for a guy to typically kind of get that stuff down? Like, do you expect a jump for a guy going from year 2 to year 3?
Yes. Again, just referring back to when I was in San Francisco in this offense, it wasn't until Kittle was almost all the way through year 2 before he felt comfortable with it. Part of the issue we also deal with too, him, coming from Campbell, a younger player, and then there's times we'll play teams and they play what we call unscouted looks. In other words, they're playing a defense or a front that they have never shown on tape. So it takes a lot of adjustments and sideline stuff to kind of, change how we might be doing things, aiming points and all that. So now that he's gone through it 2 years and he should have seen most of the things that people have thrown at us, he'll be able to make those adjustments quicker.
Yeah, that's on Jonnu Smith, who John Emery basically said he expects to be a 1,000-yard receiver. He wants to see him improve as in the run game. He was not where he needed to be on the field in order to be an asset in the run game. One of the reasons that the run game struggled last season, and neither was Julian Hill. I mean, Julian Hill, where you talked about him leading in penalties. What I found very interesting is that he basically said, hey, not getting the job done, we got replacements. Now, I don't believe him. You had replacements last year. He wasn't getting the job done, and you wouldn't pull him. But do you like the tough talk coming from a position coach for arguably the guy who had the best season last year?
Yeah, definitely, because I think something that Weaver mentioned a few weeks ago is like, if you're not, the worst place you can be in this league is be stagnant, right? Like, you have to always be getting better, right? And I think, and this wasn't a few weeks ago, this was at the end of last season, actually. And so that is when I hear that statement, right? The worst place you can be is stagnant, right? That's why I love what Embry said, is because, look, this was the guy that was essentially the leader of your unit, right? The poster child for your unit. And him saying, look, this guy ain't perfect. He has to do this. I like that, because that's accountability, right? And I think a lot of times when you have these star players, when you get these guys that, turn into divas, right? That's because there's no accountability. There's no one checking the guy, say, hey, great game, but this is 1, 2, 3 things you need to improve on if you want to be great. And, look at Embry's resume. I mean, like, we were going over it earlier. Tony Gonzalez. I feel like that's a name that people don't realize that, Embry coached, right? And so knowing that, and so if I'm Jonnu, Embry's telling me, look, you got to do this. I mean, look, I'm trying to do it because, one, I've had the best season of my career under him. I went to the Pro Bowl for the first time. And 3, again, Kittle, Gonzalez, like, he's coached great tight ends. And if I want to add my name to that list, I'm going to do everything that he says in order to get to that level, because it's only coming from a place of love. I think a lot of times when we talk about criticism, right, a lot of times people think that it comes from a place of negativity, like, oh, this person doesn't want me to be great. This person doesn't believe in my greatness. And in reality, it's anything but the sorts. It's like, this person believes in you so much that they want you to be better. And here are a few things that you can do to reach those levels of greatness. So I'm a fan of it.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't get the opportunity to listen to the new wide receiver coach. Did you make your way over there? What were some of the things
I did.
What were some of the things?
So first, Robert Prince came from Dallas last year. One of the things that immediately stood out to me is that, him and Tyreek have been in constant communication. And I went back and, when I read, I believe Greer actually mentioned that about Tyreek and Prince back in mid-April, like a month ago too. So to hear Prince kind of double that,
I said you got a constant
but I think it's more than that though. I think it's the level of communication, right? He said that this is almost a direct quote. He said, "Anytime I text him, he texts me right back. Anytime I call him, he calls me right back.
You don't even do that.
He's gonna be here, he's here." And so he's Prince. Yeah. So Robert Prince specifically has said that he loves coaching Tyreek. It's been great so far.
Man, hold on. Time out. When you coach Tyreek, in what game? Against what defense?
I mean, it hasn't been a game. There hasn't been a game yet, but I think what he's seen so far. Oh, and one big thing that I added in my story that is about to come out about Tyreek is that Tyreek treated the entire wide receiver room to a dinner recently, which to me, and it's something that I've said a while back, from the moment that his post game blow up happened, was that he's gonna have to apologize to teammates, right? And I think the way that if his teammates accept him, that will be the ultimate determinant on how that relationship goes, right? And so I say that to say that I believe that dinner is a first step. I mean, not a first step, but definitely a step in the right direction, right? Like he wants to be here. Frank Smith said that too. Like, he wants to be here. He hasn't shown us anything different. He's extra motivated after a very disappointing 2024. I mean, look, like until we see these guys on field, right? All we have to do, the best we can do is believe what they say and analyze it once in the future, once we actually see these guys on the field. But we have to remember, like, Tyreek, still the timetable for his return is still a little bit unclear. Frank Smith said that he doesn't even know if there's even really a timetable yet. So we have to be, take everything with a grain of salt. But apparently Tyreek has been in the building, right? He's been there. He's been getting and that's at the very least, when your star player acts out, in January and in May, he's there, he's talking with teammates. I mean, I guess this is the best situation you can.
Yeah. What
if he's going to stay? Again, the Dolphins haven't given up the indication.
Yeah. One of the individuals, the coaches that we also talked to was Austin Clark, who is the defensive line coach, one of the better coaches on the unit. Finally, he got an investment in his defensive line. He's got 3 new players in the room. This was a unit that really was benefited by having Raekwon Davis and Christian Wilkins and Zach Sealer on their defensive front. Then they got Calais Campbell. So there wasn't really much of a need to do a draft investment. But finally, the Dolphins got to the point where they wanted to reinforce the trenches, and Austin Clark was happy to be the beneficiary.
No, we were excited for sure. I mean, it was awesome for me to see. For us to take the investment in the front is awesome for us. That's for this particular point of where we're at. That's what we needed. And in years past, that hasn't really been the case. If you think back to like 20 to 23, when we had the same kind of 3 core guys. So it's an exciting time. I know Weave was pumped up about it as well. And now it's about the growth day to day. That's what we're focused on with these guys.
Also, how important is it to have a guy like Zach? And how much does he even have to step up more? Because Calais is out, Armstead's out as a leader for a guy like Zach.
Yeah, I would say first thing was Zach. Zach's captain on his team last year, and he earned that throughout a long process here from where he started as a Dolphin in 2020. And we just need Zach to be Zach. I think everybody that knows him and knows his leadership style, that's what he's all about. Now, when you have, 4 rookies in a rookie class, how valuable is he? He's the picture we want from a professional walking in the building every day to how he attacks individual, how he is in the weight room, how he is in the meeting room, and how he is when he leaves as a professional. So to have that is invaluable, man. And Zach's been great. It's funny. I joke with him. I'm like, you're the old guy now, man. I think he's 29, and Jordan can't even buy a beer. I mean, it's like, it's fun though. I'll tell you this, it's reinvigorated me as a coach to go okay, we got one or two guys that have kind of been around here, and we got a host of new guys. We got to teach them, we got to coach them, we got to develop them.
Yeah, and the one thing I want to point out is when we were talking to Austin Clark. He mentioned, I asked him, why 3 nose tackles, and really, he's like, that was what they played in college. Maybe that was out of necessity, maybe because that's what a coach saw and pigeonholed them. Maybe that was because the team had no other player who's capable of playing nose tackle, but that doesn't limit who they are. I think they see Biggers, Zeke Biggers, as probably a true nose tackle and understudy to Benito Jones, but they envision Jordan Phillips and Kenneth Grant as players who can play other techniques, play the 2, play the 3, not just play a 0 technique. So it'll be interesting to see. Really right now it's about technique work, and Austin is working hard with those guys about learning how to play from their base. This is a different level of this game. This is not college anymore, where you just can't be stronger and out muscle everybody or out hustle everybody. The other thing that stood out was he talked about Kenneth Grant, and he was like, everybody's seen the Penn State film. Everybody's seen the play where he runs down, I think it was a running back, downfield. But he's like, man, we've got a number of those. We caught a number of those plays, and that plays with that capability and that hustle, and that's what made us really fall in love with him. I definitely think it's a starting point for where they are from the defensive line. Now the question is, do they have enough in the front to supplement and keep those linebackers clean? I asked Joe Barry, the inside linebacker coach, whether or not T-Dot and Jordan Brooks, because they're both weak side linebackers, could play together, could have a synergy where they work well together. And sounds like, based on what Joe Barry said, T-Dot's going to be the green dot player. He's going to be the inside linebacker, and Jordan Brooks is going to remain the weak side linebacker. Joe Barry is a coach who, from the very beginning, before he even got here, he said he had an infatuation with Jordan Brooks and wanted to draft him back when he was in Green Bay. It didn't happen. He eventually got him on the rebound here in Miami. Jordan Brooks had a phenomenal season. He even talked about how Jordan Brooks had a phenomenal season. And it doesn't look like this team plans to change anything about how they used him in the role that they used him. Like this approach, or you think more should be put on the plate than the new guy of the returning veteran?
Look, man, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think we've had this conversation before. If there's a guy who, because I think we were talking about the philosophy of that green dot player, because you want that guy to be a little bit more cerebral, right? And to know, obviously it's football, like you kind of got to know a little bit of what everyone's doing, but for the green dot guy, you want him to really, really know what everyone's doing and how he fits into it. And what we had kind of discussed about Jordan Brooks is he's just a guy that just goes, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And if the Dolphins feel like that's the position he needs to stay in as the guy that just goes, right? That doesn't mean that he's not going to be a leader, because I think, and I believe you do too, like he will have to step up and be one of the leaders on this defense for them to be successful. And I think that is the biggest step for him. A bigger step, for him is that leadership and being a vocal leader, right? Because he's kind of a quiet guy around us. We've seen flashes of his personality.
I got around his teammates too.
But I think, that is an area of growth for him. But I guess on top of that, I mean, like, look, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think, T-Dot, in the limited sample size of playing time, he played well. I mean, I think he was tied for second on the team with interceptions, right? I mean, he had the really nice one, I believe, against, I forget who was that against, where he fully extended. Was that against San Francisco?
I don't remember.
I don't remember. It's season's so long. But suffice to say, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, man. If you like, Jay Boogie being your guy to just go, then just go. That was my little nickname for him.
Yeah. It's not a bad nickname,
right? Right.
All nickname. No, actually, I don't approve nicknames. So you're right. You could use it. I was going to say all nicknames must be approved by players, and I'm like, I've never had a nickname approved ever. I did want to say this. I did ask about Channing Tindle. I'm sorry for laughing.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's
bad, Omar. I did ask about Channing Tindle because this is a guy who's entering his 4th year. And Joe Barry talked about, he said, hey, in his end of the season interview, he says he does not share with us usually what his conversations with players are like and are about. But he pointed out to Channing that, hey, man, since you've been on this team, you've had 3 different defenses and 3 different defensive coordinators. This is your first time ever that you're having the opportunity to go and play in a defense and a scheme that is not changing on you and you're not learning. And this should be the opportunity and time where you can just play and react. And I will say this about Channing Tindle. The athletic ability is there. I remember I had Channing Tindle on my man crush list. So I'm taking some ownership and some accountability because I think he was their first pick in like the 4th round one of these years. They were like, F them picks. And I knew what was going to be left. And I was like, okay, give me the best athlete. I knew he wasn't a quick trigger. I knew he wasn't a very intelligent, instinctive player, but I wanted the best athlete. Now, did it blow up in the team's face? Absolutely. Because right now, Channing Tindle should be a starter in the NFL if you had drafted right. But no, you've had to go sign a free agent, go claim a guy, go re-sign a guy. Everybody and their mama is starting when Channing Tindle was initially drafted to replace Jerome Baker. So Joe Barry basically said, hey, man, this is your chance. This is your opportunity. And realistically, the expiration date on the milk carton is coming up. And if you do not play well and you do not excel, the NFL gravy train is going to be shut off. And you're going to become a journeyman bouncing around from practice squad to practice squad, hoping to be a special teams contributor. And it's a hard life once you hit that role. So there are unemployed guys who are better than you named Duke Riley who, can't get employed because they're older players. Put them on the practice field. They might embarrass you, Channing Tindle. So don't sit here and think that, it's just going to happen for you wherever you go. Once these doors close in the NFL, sometimes they never open again. So wish him the best, and hopefully he's able to sort of surface to the forefront. You did get a chance to talk to running back coach Eric Stewville.
Yes.
What y'all were talking to Stews for, man?
He's cool. I like him. I think I got a better sense of his personality this year. I like him, but keep going on what you said.
Yeah. What were some of the standouts from the things that he said during his sessions?
So I asked him about Ollie Gordon. Well, one of the first questions, let me back up. One of the first questions was asked of him was that, how will, I guess, roles change? You brought in 2 new running backs, lost Raheem. Obviously, you got Jaelan there. HN had that great season last year. How will roles change with the?
Was it great? Hold on. Wait a minute.
I think he had a great season from like
great.
I mean, look, he had a great season from.
You keep using that word great. Like great.
He had a good season. I
just want to make sure you're saying the right words.
He was like 3rd on the team in receptions. Like that.
And where did he rank in the NFL?
Look, man. I'd be interested to see where he ranked in terms of running backs. That I think is a better.
Okay, there are a couple.
Talents.
He was behind Lamar Jackson, by the way, in terms of rushing yards.
But I'm not surprised. That might be the most gifted runner in the NFL right now. Like, come on now.
Yeah,
and we always and you like you're changing your tune a little bit now because you actually not changing your tune, but remember, like you brought this up. It's as a quarterback, it's technically easier to get big to have those long runs, right?
Yeah.
Like because I remember when we brought up Tyler Huntley,
quarterback with speed.
When we tried to say Tyler Huntley's a good runner, you looked up his yards per carry. You said like it was like 4. And you're like, that's not that good for a running back. It's good overall, but for a quarterback, that's not that good. So I say, after a good season from A-Chain last year, we were asked, how do the new additions and the departure of Raheem kind of change everything? And he said, honestly, it not really. Like I think once the guys go out there, we see how they're running, we see how they're going, they determine their own roles, right? And so that to me is big because it's wide open, right? Obviously Devon is the guy, right? But you can't. I mean, they signed Alexander Mattison, right? He's a north-south guy, big guy that is a big bruiser, right? So he could help them in short yardage situations. And he talked about he loved the cerebral nature with which Mattison approaches the game, right? He talked about seeing him, all that stuff. And then on the topic of Ollie Gordon, again, he liked the leadership qualities that he saw in Ollie. Like he liked him being vocal. He said like, look, the way that he's digesting the information, it's good. It's at a high level, right? And then, I asked him specifically about Ollie. Obviously, we've seen on the tape, he runs a bit high. And so
you asked about that?
Yeah, I did ask him about that.
Oh, look at you. Oh, what'd he say? It
was actually a good response. His first thing he said he quipped was, well, I mean, he's 6'2". What do you want him to do? So we all got a quick laugh out of that. But then, what he started to dive into a little bit more was, look, like he does run high. I'm not going to change the way he runs. However, what I will do is give him a better idea of what happens when you run that way. I.e., their guys will be diving at your legs, right? And so if you don't want that to happen, you got to either develop a stiff arm or develop a move. And so I think that was a very interesting aspect of it. Like he knows that the guy runs high, right? But he's not going to change that. He's going to try to instead equip him with the tools to try to, defend himself from the guys diving at his knees and all that stuff.
Yeah, I watched film of Ollie Gordon, and despite what some people say, I don't watch film, and I
was waiting how long it would take you to address it. So what are we at? 32 minutes and 20.
I've already addressed it on many fronts. If you gonna say my name, expect a response from me. Like I'm like Will Smith. Keep my name out your mouth. But anyway, I think that he probably would have been a much earlier selection if he wasn't such a high runner. And here's the thing about high runners. It doesn't mean that they can't have success in the NFL. DeMarco Murray is a high runner, was a high runner. I can name you, what's the back that said Melvin Gordon was a high runner. The only problem with high runners are they can have great success in the league. They just don't last long.
Yeah,
they don't last long because they're heavy. They take a heavy beating and they're easy targets. The backs that I prefer are the backs that are like Frank Gore, where they have the vision and they know when to avoid hits and how to avoid hits and get down. But best of luck to them. Everybody will get an opportunity. I think anybody in that unit can be a starter, can be a productive back. That's what this offense is built for. Mike McDaniel takes this offense from the Denver Broncos, brings it here. You should be able to produce a 1,000-yard runner out of anybody on that list. So best of luck to them. It'll be interesting to see how this pans out, but we'll have more next week on what the coordinator said. And next week, as you know, Dolphin fans, that's our first week to get a look-see at the on-field work in OTA. So hopefully you will enjoy your Memorial Day weekend, and you will be back for more Dolphins In-Depth podcasts.